Following one of the most tragic events in American history, it's understandable that things were going to change. The media is a core arm of public consciousness, and it's no surprise that amendments would be made. However, out of all of the actions taken, one directive sticks out as a bizarre and damning reflection of monopoly in music history. This is the Clear Channel Memorandum. Following the attacks on 9/11, over 1,200 radio channels and program directors across America received an email outlining an infamous list. The list contained songs which were declared questionable and should be avoided from airtime under all circumstances. The thing that keeps this story far more removed from normality as you would think is that it was not simply a list of well-known anti-establishment acts or controversial songs which would be used to stir up controversy. The list included some of the happiest and most innocent songs you could imagine. Somehow, the tragic death of thousands led to songs like Obla Di Obla Da by the Beatles being banned too. So why? How did a directive so radical reach such a large amount of channels, and why were these songs chosen for the ban in the first place? What effects did the Clear Channel Memorandum actually have? Welcome to Glass Gekko, where I dissect the cultural and psychological effects of music history. To understand why these songs were banned, we have to look at a massive corporate paradox. In 1996, the Telecommunications Act was implemented. This was just 5 years prior to 9/11. Bill Clinton signed off on this major TV and radio overhaul, which aimed to deregulate the industry in order to allow for market competitiveness. The official slogan was "Let anyone enter any communications business." Yeah, real catchy slogan, I know. The idea being that smaller companies would be able to cross into new markets, giving people more choice and lower prices. However, Congress did something a little bit strange. They eliminated the national ownership cap, but only for the radio. Before 1996, a company was forbidden to own more than 40 stations nationwide. Now, there was no limit. The law that was intended to give the public more voices ended up putting the entire radio landscape into the hands of just a few corporate executives. And remember, they didn't have individual streaming back then. The key company in question for us is Clear Channel Communications. Before 1996, they had fewer than 40. By 2001, they had ballooned to over 1,200 stations. Now, 1,200 stations may seem like a drop in the bucket for such a large country, but in 2001, this was roughly 10% of every commercial station in the United States. Their closest competitor had 183. Also, due to their target of metropolitan areas, in raw listener numbers, they had a hold of roughly 2/3 of the American population, as well as controlling 80% of radio ad revenue in certain metropolitan cities. So yeah, this was a radio titan, and when 9/11 hit, this broad reach would be the exact reason this story became so important. All in all, 162 songs were banned. Many of the songs were an obvious choice. Popular songs which were blatantly anti-establishment and critiqued the very nature of US politics. This would have sowed the seeds of further public dissatisfaction and disunite the country when people needed to be together. It is worth noting that the directive was purely private. This actually didn't have any government interference. But the main focus is really on the bizarre reasons for why seemingly harmless songs were banned as well. Clear Channel Communications saw a key reason for blacklist as songs being too happy. Songs like What a Wonderful World and Obla Di Obla Da were put on the list as broadcasters felt they were almost insulting to hear in the midst of such a tragedy. Lines like "Life Goes On" threw them off because, for many, life did not, and they felt the public would be stung. Then we have the literalist reason. Remember, this is before AI. These human beings looked at these songs like a computer algorithm with no context. They banned songs which literally mentioned the words Tuesday, which was the day of the attack. Words like bomb, fire, or anything even remotely pertaining to a flying craft. Why? Well, probably something to do with the priming effect, but, well, who really knows? John Lennon was not safe either. Imagine became a very famous song on the list due to its political implications. Corporate media was trying to unite the population under nationalist fervour against a common enemy, and Lennon singing about no countries or religion in the One Nation Under God set off alarm bells. Oh, and Rage Against the Machine had every single song they ever recorded banned because, well, I think you know why. To this day, iHeartMedia, which is the modern rebranding of Clear Channel Communications, denies ever banning a single track, insisting the document was a voluntary list of public suggestions. But when a company controls your salary, career growth and local station budget, a suggestion carries a lot of weight. In this case, the majority of stations complied with their wishes, although some stations did reject the memorandum as it was not legally binding. Most famously, Bob Buckman, the programme director for a classic rock station in Manhattan, saw the list and chose to keep spinning Imagine an American Pie. He noted that those songs were actually the most requested tracks by grieving New Yorkers who were looking for comfort. Well, doesn't that just demonstrate how out of touch the broadcasters really were? The thing is, the US government didn't send any soldiers into radio stations and start smashing up vinyl records. They didn't need to. The Telecommunications Act allowed for this market to consolidate its corporate monoculture, and a single internal email chain was enough to manipulate the political atmosphere across the nation's radio waves. The email was circulated on September 13th, and the leak happened almost instantly. Within less than 96 hours, the music industry trade publication Hits Daily Double broke the news. By September 17th, Slate secured a copy of the actual list, and interviewed a Clear Channel regional vice president who openly confirmed its existence on the record. The public was understandably not too happy. The threat of soft censorship became a key concern, and many were outraged that broadcasters would do this when the nation was still under intense pain. The vice president of Clear Channel Corporate issued a press statement stating that the list was nothing more than an internet rumour. Despite the entire root of the problem stemming from Congress and its laws, the government had zero reaction. They had no reason to complain. The songs on the list complemented the suppression of anti-establishment figures, and they were not about to admit their own laws were flawed to the public.
Now watch this drive.
The confusing and almost amusing variety of songs which were included on the list has kept this story alive for over 2 decades. But the underlying reasons for this event even occurring are far more serious. The Clear Channel Memorandum is a prime example of how the media will react and attempt to manipulate the minds of the emotionally distraught just because they have the power to do so. If you enjoyed this dive into music culture and music psychology, be sure to click on the playlist on screen at the moment, and be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. But for now, I've been Gekko, and thank you so much for watching.